All right, we are back now with Senate President Stuart Adams and Speaker of the House Brad Wilson. Gentlemen, continuing our conversation, let's hit on the budget. Again, that's kind of an area where we saw two fairly significantly different proposals in the skinny budget and what we were hearing from the Senate, but again, came together. Talk about education. How did we address education in the budget?
It was a banner year for both public and higher education. $250 million of new funding for public education, as well as significant new money for higher education as well, and funneling it to them in a way that is going to even drive more performance from our higher ed system. So great year for education.
Air quality as well. Lofty goals went in, but you basically shot for the moon and hit the stars in this one with $28.8 million. That's very significant when you consider the average year is less than $2 million.
Big year for both of them, and I think one of the maybe the missed items was the amount of money we spent on education and air quality. But I mean, we've had over $1 billion, $1.1 billion spent on education over the last 4 years, and last year I think we added, as the speaker said, maybe a quarter. I've heard as high as $280 million was appropriated to public ed.
Hate crimes was a huge bill this year. This has come up year after year after year installed, and this year it got through. Large amounts from both bodies. Why was this a year for hate crimes?
I think it's because, again, part of the legislative process is a refining process, and there were a few changes made, some additional categories added that I think made people feel more comfortable with it. And again, sometimes if you're not flexible and can't listen and try to adapt to what you're hearing from those other stakeholders, I think it makes it hard to pass anything. But the sponsor did, I think, a great job, and I think as they listened to some of the suggestions, it was amended, and I think people felt more comfortable with it.
Speaker Wilson, affordable housing a big issue this year. Some lawmakers were disappointed that they didn't get their funding. Where do we move forward from affordable housing? It's a big problem in our state.
We've been actually working on this for a number of years. Some groundwork was laid last year. This year we did pass a bill that I think is going to be very important in keeping our housing affordable. And it does two things. We didn't get funding in it this year, but we did create a structure that will really work closely with cities and counties to ensure they have more comprehensive and robust plans to deliver affordable housing to their citizens.
The Stronger Beer Bill, that turned out to be quite an interesting conversation on Capitol Hill. The House committee in which Senator Stevenson went before, it was fiery. It's one of the more entertaining and fiery committee hearings I've ever been to. Again, kind of met in the middle on this one. So where does it go from here?
Well, so the issue was around beer, and the lack of availability that people perceive will exist in a few years because we'll be the only state at 3.2. The proposal was to go to alcohol content of 4.8, and we ended up at 4, which actually should capture about 85% of the beer labels that you can buy in grocery stores around the country. So we kind of found a sweet spot in the middle, but we're going to keep looking at that to make sure there aren't some unintended consequences.
Do you see the task force ultimately leading the way to the 4.8?
I think that's unlikely for the next few years at least, because we've captured most of the market, but we'll see.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's, again, looking at the data. The retailers were really concerned about being able to make sure that they provided the products their customers wanted. But one of the things I heard is some of the arguments were if you put all the beer in the liquor stores, people walk in and they may buy beer, but they may actually buy liquor with it. And so if you leave it in the convenience stores, maybe it's more accessible and easier purchase. So when you talk about consumption, which model actually enhances consumption and which one doesn't, that was quite a debate.
All right, much more to come on that debate too in the coming years. One of the big points that everyone's talking about as well is you guys were done early. That probably did more to raise your approval rating than anything else. We were done by about 11 o'clock, so all right.
First time in about 8 years that we went early.
I think we all appreciated that.
We passed a record number of bills.
That's true. We didn't need another hour, right?
We didn't need another hour.
All right, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate your time. Time goes by fast, but a lot of stuff to talk about from the session. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Glenn.
One bill that fell short was a ban on conversion therapy for youth here in our state. Both sides have very different views on how to move forward. We'll debate the issue with our panel right after the break.